Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Osasu Show. Today we're in the home of elder statesman Chief Dr. Edwin Clark. We'll be speaking to him about our ongoing series, The Nigeria We Are versus the Nigeria We Want to Be. Don't go anywhere, it promises to be a very interesting episode. Welcome back to the Osasu Show. We're being joined right now by Chief Dr. Edwin Clark. Thank you so much for inviting us in your home. You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Sir, we're doing a series, The Nigeria We Are versus the Nigeria We Are Meant to Be. We've interviewed a lot of elder statesmen, scholars, politicians on this issue, and we also know that you do this topic justice. So we want to know, from your ideal perspective, how do you envision Nigeria 10 years from now?
Well, 10 years from now, anyways, that's quite a long time. If we had to assess Nigeria for the past 4 years and to give this government another 4 years, we are not making progress because every government duty is to secure and seek for the welfare of the people. And people are not safe and they are not provided for, hunger everywhere, people are moving around everywhere, killings everywhere, then it is difficult to forecast the future. But let me say this. We do hope with the present government, they should listen. If they do listen to criticism, to people's view, and be able to manage the diverse parts of this country, and they are able to face the security of the country, the insecurity, which is everywhere. You go to Katsina, where Mr. President comes from, there's trouble. People are dying every day. You can imagine where an emir of an emirate faced with 18 dead bodies. So you have these killings everywhere in the country. So I believe that if this government listens to public opinion, and they change, and he appoints people from other parts of the country, manage the diverse nature of this country so that no one area is superior to the other. Then you have a Nigeria. Then I think between now and the next 10 years, things will change.
In line with your thoughts, sir, a lot of political leaders do concur that at the pace the current government is governing our nation, that we might not have a Nigeria to talk about in the next 10 years. So how do you react to this, and what do you think that some solutions are to ensure that we remain united, in the years to come?
In the first place, some of us have worked for this country, and we have no other country. We must stay together. The unity of Nigeria is first and foremost, the minds of everybody. But if anybody is thinking about disintegrated Nigeria, then those who are in power should re-examine themselves, should re-examine their methods of ruling. I believe that if all the components of this parts of this country, they work together, they are regarded as equal citizens of this country. No one is superior to the other. No one is a first-class citizen. No one is a second-class citizen. Because in 1914, when Lord Lugard united this country, the southern and northern protectorate, he did not say one part of this country will be superior to the other. So we need the restructuring of this country, whereby every Nigerian will be proud to belong to Nigeria. And that's what would you do.
And I would like to ask you, sir, I would like to take it a step further and ask, what's your definition of restructuring? Because a lot of political leaders we've talked to all have different ideas of what restructuring truly means.
There are some people in Nigeria who are deliberately misinterpreting the meaning of restructuring, who believe that restructuring means many things. All we are saying, restructuring is another name for true federalism. That is, there should be devolution of power, where the states, agriculture is not a matter for the federal government. Agriculture, primary and secondary education, they should be matters for the states, even university. So if you go back to the 1963 Constitution, that is what we call restructuring. So that you do not concentrate all the power in one hand. You should be able to have governors who are progressive, they move at their own pace. Those who are not progressive, they're left behind.
But how effective was it back then in 1963 when we had constitutions per state?
Very, very effective. With the true federalism in this, existing in this country at that time, you will find that Chief Obafemi Awolowo, who was the premier of Western Nigeria, was able to develop all the roads in the West with an Israeli construction company. So all I'm saying at that time, Ahmadu Bello was able to build a stadium in Kaduna, develop industrial centers in Kano, the capital city of Kaduna. But today, the oil which is in the Midwest, in the Niger Delta, is being exploited by other people. If you go to the refinery in Warri, you will look at the people, you think that the refinery is in Zaria, because everybody is a northerner. We are not saying that we don't belong to one country. Why should our people, God, provide for us these resources? We are in a difficult terrain, and it was God's will that give them this gold, and they will be able to develop themselves. But today, nobody cares for us. For instance, on the 1st of November, I led a delegation of about 100 traditional rulers from the Niger Delta to see Mr. President at Aso Rock. We submitted 16 programs, including the relocation of operations headquarters to the area where the oil is produced. To imagine a situation whereby the oil companies pay their tax to Lagos state government. The workers pay their tax to the Lagos state government. One of the companies had estates in Lagos. Without those companies, there will be no Lekki. The president appointed 9 directors into NNPC, which is the engine house of the oil industry. Could you imagine? Out of the 9, 6 of them came from the north, including the chief of staff. One came from the southwest. They produce oil. One came from the south-south, which produces about 80% of the oil that we produce in this country. None to the east, southeast, which produce oil. So you can imagine this inequitable way of distributing things. The other day, 15 senior managerial positions were appointed by NNPC. 10 of them from the north, 3 from the southwest, 2 from the south-south, where the oil is produced. Is that the country that can remain together if some people are suffering in another 10 years? So that's why I said, without restructuring, it will be difficult to keep Nigeria together within the next 10 years.
Sir, you've made quite a number of salient points. There's a theory out there regarding restructuring and true federalism, as you've called it, that the South would benefit more from restructuring. I actually beg to differ. We had a South-South president for over 6 years, and we have right now 6, I believe, South-South governors. Yet the underdevelopment within the South-South is staggering. It's alarming. So even if we restructure and our resources in the South-South, we then derive a greater percentage, I still believe that we would suffer immense underdevelopment. I think at the end of the day, it boils down to leadership.
People who will make up good leadership will come up. I mentioned to you about Obafemi Awolowo. I believe that those governors today we have, most of them have no interest of the areas they come from. They develop themselves. Some of them have become dictators. But that I will regard is in the short time. I believe that from time to time, leadership will develop in the areas and they will perform.
So in line with this theory, sir, do you also agree that since there's over $50 billion worth of gold in Zamfara State, and there's also diamonds and different mineral resources, do you believe that Zamfara State should also keep its resources for Zamfara people?
Yes. We follow the 1963 Constitution, Zamfara will keep 50% of the gold that is discovered in Zamfara. 50% will be shared by all the states. If diamond is found in another area, the same thing. If bitumen is found in another area, the same thing. The same physical federal system will follow. So there's no problem about that. But today, what is happening? Zamfara is keeping 100% of the gold discovered in the area. The federal government doesn't care. But everybody is depending upon the oil and gas from one part of the country. So, at the moment, there's no proper management of the affairs of this country. I give you a personal example. At the age of 91, that's last year, police were sent to raid my house that I was stockpiling guns and ammunition from the Niger Delta at the age of 91. When I was younger, I was one of the principal persons that brought about the amnesty. We were able to ask our boys to surrender their guns and ammunition, which they did. That brought about the amnesty program. It is at the age of 91. that I would now be able. So as I wrote a letter to Mr. President, protesting. And in one of the letters, open letter I wrote to him recently, I said, if I were a 91-year-old man from the north, he would apologize to me. That's the type of country we belong to.
And I believe the IG at the time did apologize publicly.
No, the IG apologized publicly. I accepted because our youth were now agitating. They were going to riot. And I thought that was more important than IG coming to apologize to me. So I accepted the apology in order to have peace in the area. But I then wrote a letter to Mr. President complaining about what happened to me, because he was away at that time. And I thought, if I was regarded as an elder statesman in this country, and I come from a certain part of this country, the president will apologize to me openly, or send a delegation to talk to me.
Yes, sir.
But as an old man from the Niger Delta, I'm very of little important to them.
Is it possible to prefer solutions to the complex issues we face as a nation without dividing us, without specifying where exactly we're from as a nation? Because I was in Kigali just a few days ago, and going through the War Museum, I realized that the colonial masters, in order to divide and conquer, they established or put more light on the differences between the Rwandans. So they divided them by their facial features, they divided them by who had more cattle, you know, they divided them by the work that they did. So you had the Tutsis and the Hutsus. Tutsis were divided by, defined as people who had 10 cattle or more. Those were the northern region of Rwanda. Then the southern region of Rwanda were the farmers who had 10 cattle or less. And they also distinguished them between their features, who had bigger noses, bigger eyes, bigger ears, and all of that. And after the genocide occurred, they realized that this division didn't help their country. It didn't help in the national integration of their country. So what they did was to stop referring themselves as northerners or southerners, Tutsis or Hutus. They define themselves as Rwandan. So when you go to Rwanda today, you can't ask them, are you Tutsi or Hutu? They just tell you I'm Rwandan. Is it possible to, first of all, see ourselves as a nation, not a southerner or a northerner, just as a Nigerian? Would that be possible in Nigeria?
But you realize that what the Hutus and the Tutsis went through, where over almost 1 million people were killed. 800,000 were killed. Before today, Rwanda is what it is today. That's not what we want. We should not go to the Rwanda's way. Today, they are one of the most developed countries in Africa. But you can imagine what happened before they came to that position. We have fought a civil war in this country from 1967 to 70. One would have expected that we would not like to fight a second civil war. So what happened in Rwanda, which was very bitter, should not be allowed to happen in Nigeria. That's why we are crying. That's why we are talking as Nigerians. Let us not pass through the Rwanda way.
Exactly. But it seems like we're walking their pre-genocide
but we are now moving toward that.
Exactly.
Today you have herdsmen with AK-47 moving around, killing people, maiming people, raping people, destroying farms. Tell me, how many of them have been arrested? Nobody. Yet, the government is planning to disarm every Nigerian, collect all their arms. So they will now be naked, nothing to defend themselves. We are coming to that. So, what am I saying? Let us avoid the Rwanda bitter pill. Let us have respect for one another. Let us develop all parts of Nigeria. Let us feel that we are Nigerians. I'm not a Fulani. I'm not an Ijaman. We are Nigerians.
Yes, sir. You've done a great job in painting your ideal Nigeria. So I would like to end on this note. During my talk with Alhaji Maita Masule, God rest his soul, Senator Shehu Sani, they made it a clear point that where we're coming from is better, far better than where we are today. The leadership we had in 1960, the leadership we had even pre-colonialism was a lot better than what we have today. We had a more developed nation. We had better roads, better healthcare system, better education, you know. So it seems like we're regressing. It seems like we're going back as a nation. So what solution would you prefer? Yes, you've said true federalism restructuring. Yes, you've said, you know, taking charge of your natural resources found in your geopolitical zone. But what, and better leadership, I might add, what final solution do you prefer to this situation? How do we start progressing again? How do we start holding our leaders accountable to deliver on these dividends of democracy and basic amenities that we need to be in order to call ourselves a true nation?
Thank you. I agree 100% with Shehu Sani, Senator Shehu Sani, and my late friend, Alhaji Maita Masule, that the Nigerian we had before in the past was better than what we have today. That is why I come back again to the restructuring of the country. In 2014, we had a national conference in Abuja here, which was made up of 492 delegates of all types of people in this country. We produced a report. We examined, we had 20 committees. We touched everything in this country. We examined everything. And we produced a report containing 600 recommendations, touching every aspect of life in this country. We even produced a draft constitution because we know this matter has to go to the National Assembly. So in our recommendation, we produced 2 reports, those that could be dealt with executively, others to go to the National Assembly. If today a president has the courage and the wisdom to implement those recommendations, Nigeria will be a better place for us to live in.
That's a fine note to leave it. Thank you so much, Chief Dr. Edwin Clark, for your time.
Thank you very much.
The TOS TV Network mobile app is now available. You can now catch up on our breaking news, stream our programs live, watch out for the latest update on sports and politics as they unfold. You can also get notifications for our upcoming programs and events. All these on our TOS TV Network mobile app, available on Apple Store and Google Play Store. TOS TV News from Africa by Africans.
That's it for today's program. Don't forget to follow us on social media at The Osasu Show, at TOS TV Network, at The Osasu Show Foundation, and at Osasu Igbenedion on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Don't forget to visit our website, www.tostvnetwork.com, for news on sustainable development and current affairs across Africa. I'll see you same time, same place next week. Not the same place, back in our studio next week. And until then, take very good care of yourself. God bless you.